Hey, here's another video about face and body reading. Here I wanted to go back to the Manchester bombing from May 22nd of this year, where Salman Abedi blew himself up at a concert and killed 22 and injured many more. In particular, I wanted to look at his father, Ramadan Abedi, a Libyan-born refugee who fled Gaddafi and lived in South Manchester. And then, after Gaddafi was removed in 2011 by UK and French troops, he returned to Libya. His son, Salman, unfortunately stayed. Okay, let's look at the father in slow motion. And before we start, we already noticed two things which remain throughout the movie. The head of Ramadan is tilted and he leans back. So a tilted head is very problematic. So this means you can't trust that person because that person is evading you. It is really hard to look at someone's eyes when the head is tilted. And when someone leans back, it's a sign of superiority. He basically looks down on you. Another thing we also notice is the pulling up of the mouth corners. This is a sign of disgust, and all this stays throughout the movie. Okay, let's get started. There are small signs of happiness. Yeah. These slight smile. These things are hard to see because of the tilted heads. It's the whole point.
الظهيرة في الساعة الواحدة الظهر شفت الخبر أنه اشتباه من سلمان عبيدي.
So there's no sign of sadness or remorse about his son being involved or having killed himself and all these other people.
توقعتش ان هذا الحدث انه يصير ابدا ما كانش عندي علم بالموضوع.
But throughout the movie and now as well, he is always shaking his head. That means he is contradicting what he's saying. He's in complete contradiction and denial throughout the whole video. If you talk to someone who has a tilted head and always shaking the head and making signs of disgust, this person you cannot trust.
لأنه هو ما قالش ماشي لمانشستر للبقاء في مانشستر، هو قال إني ماشي ناخذ عمرة.
Now he's shaking to the right with his head or to his left.
حصلت سبيشال اوفر في مانشستر وطالع للعمرة. سلمان كان يدرس في نورتندين كوليج في ساوث مانشستر وما عندهش مشاكل.
Shoulder shrug. When the shoulders go up, that means he's very uncertain about what he just said. So it's a sign of contradicting himself, a sign of deception. So he says there were no problems and whatsoever, and he's shaking his head again. Again shaking his head. No high marks. He spoke to him 5 days ago, but he's shaking his head. There was nothing wrong and he's shaking his head. Again, he doesn't belong to any organization, he's shaking his head. It could also mean it's congruent, saying he's not belonging to an organization, but he's constantly shaking his head. He's completely contradicting what he's saying the whole time. Small smiles when he says he doesn't belong to any organization. So these again are very hard to see actually. And in part because of his tilted head. He's now getting very active. Open discussions, it's very interesting. So now he's putting the finger to the mouth, shushing the little kids running around him. This could also be considered that he's preventing himself from speaking too much. Very interesting. When he's talking about nothing hidden, he's hiding his face behind his hand. and he's scratching himself. This is also called a pacifier. When you're sort of under stress conditions, you start fiddling around, scratching yourself, releasing and dissipating the stress you're feeling. Also, he seems to be surrounded by lots of little kids, and he shows no remorse that his son is dead, no sadness. Of course, in these radical Islamic groups, it is an honor for having a son who committed a suicide attack. He's basically becoming a martyr.
سلمان يحاول أنه هو يفهمها، بس هذا لا يتبع يفهمها.
Again, shaking his head.
أنا متأكد أن سلمان، وأعتقد أن سلمان لا يفعل هذا العمل، بل هناك.
Do you see how he always leans back? He's looking down on the viewer.
أيدي خفية من وراء هذا العمل.
And always the sign of disgust here. Mouse corners go up. Here, here.
لفعل شيء في الجالية الليبية بالذات، خاصة فئة الشباب اللي هناك، وبدليل أنني اطلعت على جوازات الاثنين أبدا، وما كان يخفى علي شيء، أي شيء.
Complete denial. Too bad he had these two passports.
لم يسافر إلى سوريا. ندين هذه الأعمال الإرهابية، هذه أعمال في السيفيليانز.
This is very interesting. So now when he talks about civilians, he has an extreme expression of disgust on his face. And now he's looking in the distance. Now he's using the creative part of his brain to come up with the right words, which don't come out naturally. If he doesn't find the words, I suppose he's trying to say innocent people, and he's not finding the words, and he looks like he's completely disgusted. Still searching and searching for the words in the distance. So in summary, he's always shaking his head, he leans back, he has a tilted head avoiding the audience. He has an expression of disgust throughout the video, and he shows no sadness or remorse. Also, his family was taken in by the UK as refugees. He only shows contempt and pride. Okay, I hope you liked this video. Talk to you next time.